So, President Trump recently came out with a budget proposal, and in this budget proposal, it has massive cuts, and you probably can guess which areas he wants to cut. Let's take a look at this news segment on CNN to see exactly what's going on.
President Trump revealed today that he'd like to see massive and, frankly, unprecedented funding cuts across the federal government that would axe domestic spending to its lowest level in the modern era. And one of the few spending increases in the president's spending wish list that he's sending to Congress, he would raise the Pentagon's budget to $1 trillion, basically resulting in a 13% increase. But he called for $163 billion in cuts that target education, housing, health, climate, and safety net programs. That includes slashing the CDC's budget by $5 billion and also taking nearly $18 billion out of the NIH programs that are focused on research. The president also wants $26 billion cut by eliminating the government's rental assistance program and also asking to eliminate another program that helps Americans pay their heating bills. There's also a $12 billion cut to the Department of Education, of course, the department that the president has essentially vowed to dismantle and get rid of entirely. Now, I said if enacted because Congress by no means has to follow what the president has designed here. This is essentially a request to lawmakers, and it may not happen, especially if you listen to what some Republicans are saying, and certainly if you're listening to Democrats. My congressional source tonight is the Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas, and it's great to have you here. I just wonder what you make of how this is playing out among Republicans, because Speaker Mike Johnson endorsed this. He praised it. But we heard from several Republicans who said they didn't like it. Senator Roger Wicker said that the president's advisors were apparently not listening because the Pentagon spending. Senator Mitch McConnell said it was material neglect. Susan Collins called it late and expressed concern over those cuts as well. What do you think is going to happen here?
What do you guys think about that budget proposal that the president just gave? I'm going to give my thoughts at the end, but you guys can see who is about to take the mic. Jasmine Crockett. You know she ain't had it. Let's hear what she has to say.
Listen, I have no idea. Unfortunately, I don't feel like we're living at a time in which these representatives, whether they're senators or House members, are listening to their constituents. If you listen to your constituents, then you will hear pain. And that pain is spread across the political spectrum. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, the cuts that you talked about, they are going to impact everyone. And it's interesting, as we are going through reconciliation, we had a reconciliation markup in oversight as well as judiciary. So I had a very long night on Wednesday. And to listen to them, the things that they were not willing to say that they were okay with cutting, or the things that they were willing to cut, right? It's absolutely insane. And I have to tell you that the House budget Democrats have made sure that we have every single district listed out with the amount of people that will be impacted by the Medicaid cuts, with the amount of people that will be impacted by the SNAP cuts. But you even went a lot deeper there. And here's the reality. You said that he wants there to be a portion of the budget that goes up to $1 trillion on the defense side. And when we look at defense, you know who can't pass a clean budget or a clean audit? It's defense. They have failed the very last 7 audits. So why would they continue to get raises, which they always do, yet we're going to hurt the most vulnerable amongst us?
Yeah, and they're saying that it's targeted. It's for certain programs of the Pentagon. It wouldn't just be to boost overall spending. But
I would like to just say right here that I am one of the Americans that benefits off the Department of Defense being funded. You know, my job is heavily reliant on the Department of Defense being funded. So I'm a little biased when it comes to increasing, the Department of Defense and cutting everywhere else. I understand that, the Department of Defense, which is the military, people that are working on certain projects, government contracts, things like that. Again, my job is heavily reliant on that. So I should be pro, Department of Defense. If anyone wants to put money into the Department of Defense, I'm all for it, because she's talking about people getting raises. Heck, maybe I can get a raise. Maybe people in my field can get a raise. My fellow tradespeople that are in our field. But I understand where, Democrats and the average people see, the Department of Defense getting boosted up and everywhere else is getting cut. I'm not sure if that's a good look for our country to be cutting everywhere else, sick people, but still funneling money into the Department of Defense. But again, I'm on the fence because my paycheck comes from the Department of Defense. I just like to throw that in there. But let's keep going.
But I still think it's a good question in terms of what that looks like. But do you think the president will get what he wants here from Republicans? I mean, what is your sense of watching your colleagues across the aisle?
It seems like they do whatever he wants them to do at all times, right? Like behind closed doors, they will talk about how these things are crazy. You can find plenty of Republicans that will tell you that these tariffs are a problem. They will tell you that, and they know that it's a problem. This is why they don't want to go out and listen to their constituents by having town halls. This is exactly why, if you tune in and watch any of these hearings, when it comes down to marking up these bills where these cuts are supposed to be, you know who won't even defend them? The Republicans. We sat in hours and hours and hours of in listening to amendments as we were going through the markups. And every time we started calling out specific Republicans and said, Congressman such and such, what do you think? And they literally were silent. It was almost like they were told, don't say anything because we can't win. We just have to vote down these common sense amendments and get through this because this is what we've been told to do.
Well, and on the Pentagon spending part of this is the wish list includes the Golden Dome, which is basically this new missile defense shield, new space missions to Mars and also to the moon. The question is who would benefit from that? And based on the person who has massive federal contracts for that right now is Elon Musk. I do wonder, though, given the backlash that some Republicans have seen at town halls and Democrats who are accused by some constituents of not doing enough to push back against Elon Musk, what you make of that and whether or not that will be in the final spending bill here.
I mean, it's all about making sure that he and his friends are happy. That's it. So, yeah, absolutely. I can see that, we've talked about this Gold Dome situation and Elon. I don't know that I'll see that in there. I'll be perfectly honest. I don't know. I think that they may say this is where we kind of draw the line. There was an increase even under President Biden for defense as well. And that came as a part of a negotiation to raise the debt ceiling the last time. They said, well, when we get to the budget, you've got to make sure that you do this increase. But here's the bigger issue. We can talk about the specifics of cuts and where there's going to be increases. The real issues are this, is that when you start to cut, regardless of if you think it's a handout or whatever you think it is, this impacts all of us. Even if you are not the person that say is on Medicaid, when you have to show up to that hospital or when you have to go see your doctor or when your children are having to go to school with other children that aren't getting their health care. Listen, we learned this in the pandemic, that you can't just say, oh, well, I have enough money so I can escape this. You can't. This is going to impact those of us that aren't the 1%ers.
Well, and obviously we're seeing disagreement among Republicans. Democrats also are not agreeing. No one seems to be able to strike the balance on where you're going, what's the best way to respond to President Trump. Vice President J.D. Vance was asked tonight who he believes is leading the Democratic Party, and I want you to listen to his answer.
Do you think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, is the new leader? Could it be Vance AOC in 2028?
President AOC, the stuff of nightmares, Brett. Thank you. You've ruined my sleep for this evening.
Who is the leader of the Democratic Party?
I don't know. Honestly,
Do you think about it?
I think to the extent the Democrats have a leader, Donald J. Trump is the leader of the Democratic Party.
They're against him
because they're just against everything that he does.
Oh. Is Trump leading the Democratic Party?
Under no circumstances. And I think that he absolutely, in fact, he had my name in his mouth here recently. No, listen, that is not true. But I do think that one of our problems right now is that everybody's like, who is our leader? And I keep trying to tell people that you are waiting on somebody to come and save you, but your savior is you. It is the people. The most, as we listen to the vice president speak, or Vice President Kamala Harris, let me just say that. As we listened to her speak on Wednesday, one of the things that she talked about being inspired by was the people. And that is what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to make sure that, listen, no matter how you associate politically, This is about us. And right now, Trump has made it about him and his rich billionaire friends.
So if you were asked who the leader of the Democratic Party is, you would not say any elected official. You would say the voters.
I would absolutely say the people.
Speaking of leadership and what that looks like, there was sad news in the House this week when your colleague Jerry Connolly announced that his cancer has returned. He's going to be stepping away from his role as the lead Democrat on House Oversight. That's a key position. Are you interested in taking that position?
Yeah, listen, I first must say that we have all benefited from the service of Jerry Connolly for 30 years. And I hate to hear it, but I am the vice ranker on the Oversight Committee. And if given an opportunity to lead, I am ready to go on day one.
And so you are throwing your hat in the ring for that?
If there is an election, he's not resigned his post, but we know that he's not seeking re-election. So it may be next term before that post opens.
Why do you think that you would be the best Democrat to take that position?
Because I think
which is essentially to fight the president and his agenda.
Exactly. It is. Listen, oversight has so much latitude. But beyond that, we are allowed to conduct investigations. We are allowed to send out subpoenas and get documents. And here's the deal. My legal experience, I think, helps me be able to kind of guide through that part. But one thing we've always done really well as Democrats is get down and do the work. But we've got to communicate what it is that we were able to get in that work and translate it. And so I think that I can not only do the work, but make sure that people understand this is why we're having these problems at the FDA. This is why we're having these problems at the VA. This is why we have planes that are falling out of the sky. It is to do the investigation, find out about these firings and how they are impacting us. The information that this administration wants to hide from the American people, I want to make sure I can shine a light on it.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, thank you for your time tonight. Great to have you here on
Thank
SAP.
you. Good to see you.
All right, so you guys just heard from Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Of course, it sounds like she might have an opportunity next year to move up. I think she is a rising star, so I think she definitely should take it because she is becoming a voice for the Democrats, as is AOC.